are you?
I'm grand.
Good.
Feeling good this morning.
Welcome back to Ireland.
Thanks very much.
First gig last night in the Sold Out World Tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you said on stage last night it was your first time doing that in almost 2 years.
Yeah.
I was wondering, the lead up to it, what was the kind of ratio of nerves to excitement? Were you kind of crapping it but really excited at the same time?
Yeah, exactly. Quite nervous beforehand. First time playing a gig in 2 years. First time doing a gig on my own ever. You know, I've done 3 or 4 songs here and there at different things, but never done a full show.
Yeah.
Home gig, nerves, always tough. First gig of the tour, kind of all up in the air for a while there, and then a couple of songs in, I was starting to settle down and
By the end of
really
it,
enjoy it. I was loving it.
Yeah. It was a tricky gig to do because you mentioned that you've 2 singles out.
Yeah.
It's essentially a new music gig.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be hard to sell that to people at a show. You know, we've all been at gigs where
yeah.
I don't know this and going to the toilet, or I don't know this and going to the bar.
Honestly.
But the crowd really, really responded well to it.
Yeah, I really don't like going to gigs myself where I don't like the music, but I felt like I had explained what I was trying to do to the fans before I'd sold the shows. I was trying to let them hear the album before I released it, you know, properly. So I felt like the reaction to it was quite nice. Obviously, the shows are sold out, and that's a very nice.
Were you anxious that the tour would start in Dublin, or did it just kind of happen by accident that way?
No, I obviously wanted to do a show in Dublin. Where it happened in, was it London first or Dublin? I don't know. I don't know who made that decision. I knew I wanted to do one here though.
Yeah.
But I was nervous about that because, as I said, doing your first gig of a tour is tough enough. Doing it in your hometown is a different story altogether. So I was nervous about it, and I nearly thought it was a bad idea.
Okay.
That I would get nearly too much for me. But in hindsight, like, I was talking up me.
Your hoop.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was just unbelievable. Probably the best way to start a tour is.
Yeah.
I'd probably do it again.
Yeah. In terms of going on the road again, I mean, you spent most of your adult life on the road.
Yeah.
This time, as you mentioned, it's very different because it's all about you. And even I know today you've got like 20 or 30 interviews. You can't share the load. It's all on you.
Exactly.
Are you a little bit nervous about that, or does it feel very different for you?
I love being on the road anyway.
Okay.
Never really got bored of playing shows every night and playing to thousands of people. It's a very, very rewarding feeling. No matter what kind of a mood you're in that day, you'll always go out and have a good laugh on stage. So it's obviously going to be different. There's going to be less people on the road. We usually would travel with tons of trucks and massive crew and
Dancers and the works.
whatever you want. Yeah, big stages and lights and band and 4 or 5 other members. Now I think our crew is, I'm going to say 15 or 16.
Okay.
And that's including, lads who put the stage up and techs and me and the band and security and whatever. Yeah, so it's very condensed and it's going to be very different. But I'm looking forward to it again. I haven't toured in a year and a half or 2 years, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, one of the great things, I suppose, for the tour is that you are keeping that kind of Irish influence for the crack and maybe a pint afterwards, because you're bringing the best of Irish with you all over the world.
Oh, 100%, yeah. That's a no-brainer for me. Like when I was asked did I have anyone in mind for supporting acts, I just wanted to. I kind of don't see it as like a supporting act in a way, because Picture This are opening up for me tomorrow night in London, but they're also selling that same venue out next week or the week after. It's not. I don't see that. I see that as like just having a full Irish show, if you know what I mean. I didn't really see it as like an open thing. Now that I think about it, it might look quite disrespectful. Just to be like, who do you think you are type thing. But yeah, so there's the talent coming out of this country at the minute is phenomenal.
I mean, you picked 5 or 6, but you could have picked 30 probably,
Yeah, well, I just said, I literally said to my management, I said, go to the Irish promoter and see who's free. I think like the Academic are in the States at the minute or something like that. That would have been great. Like a whole Mullingar thing would have been nice as well. Picture This, Wild Youth, Gav, Academic, Hudson Taylor. You could be here for ages.
I know Gav has already been doing a bit of messing on Twitter, so I'm sure he's going to bring that to the tour as well.
Gav's always good laughs. He's worth every penny every time.
Looking forward to the album. Okay, it's a little bit later in the autumn. Obviously, anyone who comes to the show is going to get a bit of a preview of it before everybody else. But for those watching, what can they expect?
A nice mix of, if they know about me, they'll know I've got, quite an old school taste in music. So I would say that was that first off. Good mix of up tempo and lower tempo songs. Nice acoustic stuff. Some kind of Southern Californian driving tunes. It's got a nice little mix of everything in there.
Was that kind of stuff always on your playlist, like yourself?
Yeah. Since I was young, I was brought up on the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac and stuff like that. So I don't really know anything different, to be honest. So I just wanted to make that kind of an album, really.
There's a couple of bangers on there now, I have to say, last night. And as you said, we're like, there's a bit of Fleetwood Mac there, there's a bit of Hall & Oates there, and you can see the influences coming in,
Yeah.
So you must be looking forward to getting it out there.
Yeah, I've been working on it since last March or April, so I'm ready. It's been like a year and a half. I'm ready for people to hear it now, and I kind of had this full plan of bringing the album out in October or whatever, and I was just like, I need people to hear it first, so that's why I wanted to do these shows.
And then when it comes to songwriting for you, I mean, you said you're kind of working on it since March, October. Were some of these songs always in your head, even in the One Direction days, kind of playing around, or did you sit down specifically to write this album?
Yeah, I guess I sat down to write this. I knew kind of things about like what I wanted to write about, and that's always playing on your mind. You're always firing ideas around in your head all the time. Even like when I take a break from this interview, I'll be thinking of something. So I sat down specifically to write this album, and I think it's worked. I think the reason it worked so well for me is because I had time.
Okay.
I wasn't put under any time constraints, or sometimes you hear stories of labels being
pushing
and stuff like that. But I told them that if you want me to do this, I'm gonna have to be left to my, doing my own devices and sort it out myself.
So where did you go to write it?
Kind of everywhere. I was at home some days on my own, and then I set up sessions with people that I'd want to write with, and bits in London, bits in Nashville, bits in LA, and I recorded the whole thing in LA, which was great.
There was one particular song you mentioned last night, and I know it's obviously a theme of the tour, and that's Flicker. And it's a song you were really, really proud of. It's a beautiful song, beautifully performed. Why is it special?
I did just the story. It's like the story behind it, and the way I interpret it is quite a poignant story in my life. And I just I felt when I was writing it just kind of flowed out, and I didn't have to overthink anything. Then the recording of it was quite intense, and as I explained on stage, they're playing with a session band that play in the studios every day and don't have to care about what they're playing at all, and they were even kind of emotionally drained playing it, and I just felt like I haven't really seen many songs like that hit home like that in a while, so I was pretty proud of it, really.
The final thing I wanted to say was just a little thank you for making our wonderful name Niall famous all over the world. I have no doubt that
it's rare that I sit across from another Niall.
I've no doubt there are Nialls being born in Rio and the Philippines and Venezuela right now, so thank you for that.
No problem at all.
Listen, continued success, and good luck with the album.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me.